Hello everyone, my name is Paul and welcome to the Everyday is Saturday Garage. Today I wanted to do a review on the Hook Road roof rack installed on a 2019 Ram 1500 Classic Edition pickup. Okay, the first thing I did was loosely assemble the front, rear, and both side sections. Also attach the feet. It is a little heavy and awkward. You may need to have another person help you set it in place, but set it on the top of the roof and try to position it exactly where you're going to want it. Once you have marked the molding on all 4 feet, then you can go ahead and remove the rack from the roof and get some kind of plastic putty knife or some kind of little pry bar, plastic pry bar for removing body panels. They work pretty well. And take that tool and you will pry up gently. Once you have the molding pulled up in the area of the 4 feet, do them one at a time though, but when you have it pulled up, go ahead and take a razor blade or some kind of cutting tool and cut where you have marked, and just go ahead and remove that little section where the foot is going to sit. Once you have the 4 sections removed where the feet are going to sit for the roof rack, go ahead and set the roof rack back in place. At that time, you will go ahead and mark the holes where you're going to have to drill in the rooftop. I know it sounds terrible to have to drill in your rooftop, but that is what it's going to take in order to install this roof rack. Now, after center marking your holes where you're going to drill and get your drill bits picked out what you're going to use, you can pull back on the molding or the weather strip inside your door and actually pull down on the headliner and look up in there at the roof to make sure you're not going to hit a side airbag curtain. When you are drilling, you're not going to want to plunge really deep because you don't want to hit anything in there. So keep it very shallow and be careful when drilling. This thread nut tool or thread insert tool made it a lot easier for inserting that thread insert inside that channel. The hardware that I used to attach the feet to the roof, the 1/4-20, was no more than 1 inch long. I'd say it was right at 1 inch. So when you put those down into the thread insert, make sure you put a little bit of RTV on there. Kind of goop it up pretty good to where you know there's not going to be any kind of water intrusion. At this point, you can go ahead and start putting in your cross members. When I installed mine, I did not use the lock washers that came with the kit. I went ahead and used red thread lock. Get the gel stuff. It's really good. It doesn't drip down on your paint or anything. And I also used lock nuts on all of the corner pieces instead of using the lock washers. Now, don't go too crazy tightening up all of your hardware. Get everything good and snug, and after you take it down the road, maybe put 100 miles on it, you're going to go around and retighten everything anyway. That'll give everything a chance to kind of settle in and vibrate to where it needs to be, and then you can get a good final torque on it. Now, what I did to cut down on all the wind noise in the cab was to mount that top bolt in this existing square hole. I kind of took up the space with a fat fender washer, but I had to drill these 2 holes, and that shifted the whole front plate back a little bit. And these bolts I just put in here as kind of filler just so they weren't bare holes. But it did allow me to snug up the air gap between the hood, or between the roof and that top plate. I did also use some edge guard that I had laying around the shop here to put underneath so it wouldn't mar up the top of the cab with any kind of vibration. But there is about a 1/4 inch gap, and what I did was use a piece of toolbox foam that was probably about a 1/4 inch thick, and I laid it across the top and had this bottom piece resting on it. That way I could get the distance that I was looking for. Now, that minor adjustment I did on the front plate, you probably would not have to do with a crew cab. But being a quad cab pickup, in order to avoid having that big air gap between the roof and the roof rack, that's what I had to do. And making that small adjustment, I'm able to go down the interstate at 75 miles an hour, and I do not have a whole lot of wind noise. There is some wind noise, but it's not terrible. And for your knowledge, I tried running it down the road without the lights. The lights actually break up the airflow over the top, and they quiet down your cab noise quite a bit. As you can see, I did not install the side lamps that came with the roof rack. I really didn't see the use, and it seemed like the hardware was going to be way too close to the top of the cab. I didn't see how I was going to get it in there without really scratching everything up, and it kind of gives you more room to tie stuff down. So I just left the lights out. These are just some of the things, minus your basic hand tools, that you're going to need to install this roof rack. I have taken the vehicle on a 1,200-mile road trip and came back afterward and even checked again, and the hardware was still tight. No vibrations, no loosening. Everything worked great. Now, I have linked the supplies in the description. There'll be plenty of videos to come. So come back and see us here at the ESG.